Singapore-on-Thames is an idea that seems to have been floating around since the Brexit vote in 2016. It's got an appeal to economic libertarians. The funny thing is they almost always fail to mention a key point about Singapore's tax system, which makes it all possible, and I'll come to that in a moment. And now the same ideas come up over Hong Kong with the pressure that's being put on it by China. It's been suggested that up to 3 million people in Hong Kong have got the right British nationality status and might be allowed to settle in Britain and bring their economic system with them, a sort of Hong Kong 2.0. The response has been mostly negative. There's no room in Britain, or people come up with unsuitable places like Cornwall or Northern England or the Isle of Wight. As it happens, there possibly is a place, a good one as well. If you've ever flown in over the east coast, you might have noticed this network of rivers which all come into the sea between Harwich and Felixstowe. Could this be a place for a city? It would join up the two ports, Harwich and Felixstowe, with Ipswich. If my calculation's right, which gives room for about 3 million people at a density of 125 people per hectare, which is not unduly dense. It's also got good road and rail connections. There's a rail container freight route directly to the Midlands. Both Felixstowe and Harwich have got branch lines up to the main line to London, so you might create a spine railway running around the estuary. Better still, Felixstowe is Britain's biggest container port, and Harwich is an important roll-on, roll-off port, and there could even be room for an airport, as there's plenty of level ground nearby. Such an airport might eventually supersede Heathrow even. To make all this work would of course need infrastructure. The sea defences would need to be upgraded. There'd need to be some kind of fixed link, a bridge or a tunnel between Harwich and Felixstowe. But those would be desirable anyway. The sea defence is really necessary. And so building a city on the back of this infrastructure would make a lot of sense. The real obstacle is this: all land in Hong Kong is owned by the government and is sold off on short, that's usually 40-year leases, and that gives the government a steady income and allows its businesses and people to get off with paying low taxes. So for our Hong Kong 2.0 to work, the land in the zone would have to be nationalised and vested in the government, and I think that verges on the impossible. If the Hong Kong model is ruled out, there's still the Singapore option. The same low tax regime there is supported with a land value tax, which again means that businesses and individuals can get away with keeping their earnings and profits. Now that's technically feasible, and existing residents and businesses would benefit. There wouldn't be a need to expropriate. The trouble is, every suggestion for a land value tax gets shot down by objectors who claim that it's impossible to value land and that poor pensioners would get driven out of their valuable homes. So the chances of a replica Hong Kong based on the Singapore model, whilst they're practicable, are also vanishingly small. And I think this idea is going to get kicked into the long grass. Now it's interesting that when libertarians praise the low tax regimes of these Far Eastern economic tigers, they almost never mention the fact that their governments can do this because they're getting their income from land value in one way or another. I think it's really a pity that these right-wing think tanks who favour free ports and the like can't get their heads around this idea and put forward the Singapore model, because it would do what they seem to want to achieve. What can you say?